The tampon king gets back in the ring. I speak of former VP nominee Tim Walz. He joined Beto O'Rourke at a Texas town hall last night, and the estrogen levels were enough to give Chuck Norris menstrual cramps. I wonder, is our strength our diversity?
Our strength is our diversity. We've been talking about this for years as a country of immigrants, and we let them define the issue on immigration. We let them define the issue on D&I.
But I'm thinking there's only one explanation for Tim spewing nonsense like this. Time of the month.
What do you get when you mix a smug TV host with a governor who governs like he's lost in a Target parking lot? You get Greg Gutfeld absolutely obliterating Tim Walz like a gluten-free piñata at a carnivore convention. From botched policies to bureaucratic ballet, Gutfeld turns Minnesota's leadership into a stand-up comedy special without a break. Stick around, this roast is hotter than Tim's approval rating is cold. And yes, it's every bit as brutal as it is hilarious.
Walz continues to be criticized for embellishing his rank and service. After it came out over the weekend, he once claimed to be an official bikini inspector. Walz's direct superior in the National Guard says Walz knew his unit was about to deploy to Iraq and went behind the back of his superior officer to resign. When reached for comment, Walz yelled, "Hey, look over there," and then ran away. Although Walz's actions look bad to veterans, Dems say these revelations could really help him win the coward vote.
Oh, Tim Walz, if political leadership were a buffet, be the sad. Lukewarm mashed potatoes nobody asked for, but still got served next to your steak. Bland, unnecessary, and somehow always there. Enter Greg Gutfeld swinging sarcasm like a chainsaw. In a fireworks store, he shredded Walz's nonsense with the focus of a caffeinated Dexter on open mic night. It's less governance, more interpretive finger painting with expired mayonnaise.
Exploited his military background to cover up his crime. He said it was related to his service and that he actually wasn't drunk. He just misheard the instructions in the drunk test. He blew a super high level. It was like, 0.2, driving 100 miles an hour. And then when he's running for office, he said that he wasn't drunk. I mean, this guy has creep written all over it. He created a snitch line, but lies about his personal infractions. He doesn't even own up to it. This is a guy who pushes a hoax about sex on a couch. And then the closer you look at him, he's a creepy cuck.
Let's face it. Tim Walz running Minnesota is like watching a substitute teacher try to control a classroom full of raccoons hopped up on sugar he. Talks like a guy who read Leadership for Dummies and thought, perfect, this is my entire political philosophy now, and the execution flawless it. The goal was to turn the land of 10,000 lakes into the land of 10,000 bad ideas.
Most recently, Donald Trump's executive order to make it more difficult, specifically to women, trying to make it more difficult for women to be able to vote. We see one of the first things they do is try and restrict the vote.
Wait, so Trump is making it more difficult for women to vote? How so? Math problems? But it's further proof that the most dangerous thing for a leftist is a follow-up question, which is why you never hear any. But I guess questioning elections is okay now. But the best moment came when Walz forgot who he is.
Greg Gutfeld didn't even have to try roasting Tim Walz as like dunking on someone wearing Crocs to a job interview while blindfolded. It's as if Walz showed up to a debate with a kazoo and a whiteboard that just says feelings he basically asked. For it, he handed Gutfeld a roast platter labeled extra crispy and whispered, "Be savage. This isn't satire anymore. It's competitive sarcasm," and Walz brought glitter, glue, and a participation ribbon.
He's a strange dude.
Oh, he's strange.
He is strange. Him and I are the same age. How does he look so much younger?
No, he's a strange guy.
Strange.
He called up years ago. I was in the White House, and he said, "My house is being surrounded by people with American flags." I said, "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" He said, "I think they're going to attack me." This was during the riots and everything else. They were MAGA people. You know, they like the American flag, all right? And they also had Trump. And I said, how do you know? There were about 15,000, he said. He said, could you put out a word like that I'm your friend? I don't even know him, but that's the only time I ever spoke to him. And if you look back long ago, tweets, before Truth, tweets, long ago, I put out a statement. He's a good man, the governor. He's on our side. I didn't know him, but I didn't want him to get hurt. And everybody put down their flags and they left. Yes. He said it was a miracle. He said it was a miracle.
Let's talk economy. Walz looked at inflation, unemployment, and businesses fleeing the state and thought, add more taxes. He wants to tax the air tax smiles, maybe even tax people for thinking about moving too. South Dakota companies are running from Minnesota like it's a haunted mansion filled with carbon mandates and day seminars. Gutfeld ripped through Walz's economic logic like a raccoon in a compost bin. He practically shouted, how do you make California look like a capitalist dream in comparison? The only thing growing in Minnesota under Walz is government paperwork and the collective headache of the middle-class no-criminals treats. Public safety like a toddler playing with fireworks, naive, dangerous, and ending in sirens, his big idea. Blame society, hold hands, and hope criminals respond to interpretive dances, like handing out scented candles in a burning building.
On the same bad cocaine, but Kamala can't speak, he can't speak, Biden was so high he couldn't remember anything. Like, this is literally the dumbest administration of all time. Why is he talking?
It really is the ultimate clown show, and I said this in the pod. He's a clown without a circus.
He doesn't even need makeup.
He's roaming the terrain. Is there some carnival that I could work for? Yeah. I'll watch your windows.
He's a rogue clown.
Yes.
Who is just an inconsequential footnote to vice presidential history.
Yes.
No one will remember his name on trivia night, and that's going to be in 3 months.
Meanwhile, Gutfeld is over there doing stand-up with crime stats. He basically held up a Minnesota map with "Here be carjackings" scribbled across the Twin Cities. He compared Walz's crime strategy to a mall cop trying to stop a riot using a kazoo. And a clipboard? If Walz handled national security all? Be speaking Russian by next weekend education? Let's dive into that disaster. Walz, a former teacher because of course, he decided that Minnesota classrooms should focus less on academics and more on woke sensitivity training. Forget math and science. Kids are now graded on how well they identify microaggressions and build safe spaces out of popsicle sticks. Gutfeld went full blast. He joked, the only test students are passing in Minnesota is how to be offended 101 under Walz. Classrooms aren't about education anymore. They're performance art. You don't get detention, you get a TikTok therapy session and a rainbow sticker.
Especially talking about these old white guys who seem to disappoint us on a regular basis in this country.
Dude. You're an old white guy. And you're right, you are a huge disappointment. I guess hating himself is the first thing he's nailed correctly. Because Walz saying old white men suck isn't a political stance, it's his confession. Walz calling people old and white is like Maxine Waters making fun of someone for shopping at Wigs R Us. He wants to execute more DEI policies, and Trump wants to execute murderous gang members. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Can you see the
And then there's COVID. Walz handled the pandemic like it was a shot at becoming America's next petty dictator. He shut down bars, fined churches, and arrested business owners. But massive protests? Totally allowed? Apparently the virus? Respects political slogans. Gutfeld ripped into that double standard. He pointed out how Walz canceled Grandma's bingo night, but welcomed giant street protests, as long as someone held a Marxist banner and a paper Mac puppet. That's not health policy. That's community theater and a lab coat. Then came the budget surplus. Minnesota had one so massive, it couldn't be ignored. So naturally, Walz didn't return it to taxpayers. He used it like monopoly money at a government flea market. Expanded bureaucracy, hired more consultants, and probably commissioned a taxpayer-funded mural of himself looking serious.
that Walz lost, but one of them at Politico says is like Walz's wide eyes showed his passion and emotional intensity. Can we show that? There is his wide eyes. That humans would widen their eyes to convey that danger is close. What emotion are you getting from that?
Sorry. Still. That was every...
Gutfeld couldn't believe it. Said giving Walz a surplus is like handing a toddler a credit card and saying, "Only by essentials, sure, Tim. I'm positive the Department of Overregulation." Needed a new espresso bar and a gender equity yoga retreat. Walz turned bureaucracy into a competitive sport. Want to open a lemonade stand in Minnesota? You'll need 14 permits. Background checking to declare your pronouns. Gutfeld made it sound like Walz was training for the bureaucratic Olympics every decision flips and spins like a tax-themed circus act. And don't get him started on Walz's crush on Gavin Newsom. It's like he's trying to turn Minneapolis into San Francisco's frostbitten, less functional cousin.
Tim Walz vomits more nonsense.
I called Donald Trump a wannabe dictator. It's because he is. It's because he is. Maybe it's an adult like Donald Trump, you bully the out of him back. This is a weak, cruel man that takes it out and punches down on people.
Wow. Oh. Jamie.
What a
Painful,
douchebag,
huh?
Greg. That was absolutely painful. He was the keynote speaker at this conference. Can you imagine having to watch more of that?
Walz sees Newsom burning down California with bad policy and thinks, love it, let's add snow and fewer jobs. The same disaster script just performed in snow boots with higher property taxes. Gutfeld nailed him again. Gavin Newsom is a shampoo model with Bond villain energy. Tim Walz is the understudy who wandered in halfway through the play and started ad-libbing in Pig. Latin Walz walks around like he's Bernie Sanders crossed with a broken traffic light. He acts like a progressive savior while tripping over every agency he touches. In transportation. Don't even try. Walz pitched a multi-million-dollar bullet train that might get built sometime after dinosaurs return. Minnesota roads look like post-apocalyptic Mario Kart track sand. All people want is not to wreck their suspension.
So the tone of the media was one of sadness, not reporting Walz's loss, but mourning it. Now, the truth is that a VP debate is like a colonoscopy. It's important and necessary, but that doesn't mean you want to watch it.
Hong Kong and China during the democracy protest went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
Even a deer in the headlights is screaming, "Get the out of the way, dude!" It's no wonder they don't do follow-up questions with Democrats. They're like the top layer of day-old skimpy bean dip. What's underneath, you don't want to see.
Gutfeld rolled his eyes so hard. Seismologists probably took notes. Great idea. He mocked, let's toss logic in the trash and invest billions in Elon Musk fan fiction on rails, because nothing says economic genius like building a bullet train to nowhere slower than the DMV and less useful than a Solarp Award flashlight in January. Walz's media appearances, they're like watching someone cosplay a competent leader while speaking with the clarity of a dial-up modem underwater. He talks in endless loops like a GPS stuck in recalculating him behind the scenes. His staff is throwing cue cards and prayers, hoping he lands 1 point. Gutfeld tore into it like a poet at slam night after 5 drinks. Watching Walz explain. Policy is like watching a raccoon try Morse code with oven Michiotic, confusing, and somehow proud of it.
Kamala's VP, Tim Walz, is being accused of lying about his rank, which is called stolen valor. But in Walz's defense in Minneapolis, stealing is legal. But misrepresenting your past for political gain? I don't see that as a problem, said one woman.
And when he's in trouble, Walz doesn't pivot, he pirouettes like a ballerina hopped up on Red Bull. And Atlantic magazine articles ask him about crime. He starts talking about bike lanes, ask him about inflation, and he explains the emotional burden of asphalt. This isn't leadership, it's therapy circle governance with graphs and mood boards. Gutfeld summed it up. Walz is like a magic 8-ball wearing orthopedic shoes. Shake him and you'll get something about equity gardening. He brands himself like a folksy farm dad. But his idea of hardship is drinking almond milk without a paper straw. He's the guy at a tailgate who brings kombucha and asks if the brisket is free-range. Gutfeld roasted him with sniper precision. Folks, please. This guy is about as relatable as tofu at a demolition derby.
Today, and he's got a very weird way of greeting his wife of 30 years. Roll it. I want to see this in slow motion. You'll see Walz extends his hand to his wife. She grabs it. They shake. He pulls her close and then goes in for that non-friction hug, all the while still shaking her hand. I wish there was a word to describe that. Oh, yeah, weird. I've seen warmer embraces between Chris Christie and a salad.
Out in rural Minnesota, people are yelling into the void like someone trying to cancel dial-up in 2025. They wanted a leader who understood jobs tractors. It's maybe a potluck or two. Instead, they got Tim Walz. Thinks the state ends where the last bike lane stops. This isn't leadership. It's lifestyle branding with buzzwords. Walz governs like he's live streaming a TED Talk titled Empathy Through Bureaucracy. Gutfeld's final insult, he called Walz the IKEA governor. Comes in a box, missing screws, assembly required. By the end, you're crying, staring at a crooked cabinet, wondering if it's a metaphor. And he's right. Walz treats politics like Pinterest. He thinks running a state means hashtags, oat milk, and drama. Gutfeld saw through it, a leathery, bloated initiative. Every word salad interview, every sermon pretending to be strategy. He didn't just roast Walz. He slow-cooked his entire oatmeal flavored brand of leadership into a sad, steaming mess. The sad part, Walz probably walked away thinking it was a standing ovation. Minnesota deserves better than a group project wearing khakis and Gutfeld with every punchline sharper than a DMV pencil reminded America that behind the fleece vest and polite smile is a man governing from instructions printed upside down, confused, underwhelming, and missing half the screws.